What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre technical test. I was able to play it, so I want to talk about some of the highs and lows, kind of do a tech test review. I don't know if people are doing that, but the game's complex, and I definitely want to make videos on, playing as the killers, playing as the victims, some tips and tricks kind of things, but wanted to give my overall thoughts first because I think this game is really, really good. I have one kind of glaring problem with it, / I'd say maybe worry, and so I don't know if I should just leave that on a cliffhanger. Maybe we'll start there. I think the longevity of this game with people playing as victims is what scares me the most. I think looking at the stats, looking at the amount of times that killers win or killers kill the victims versus when victims are actually escaping, it's probably what you'd imagine or maybe what the developers want, right? Where the killers are winning. And you think about the actual game, right? So the survivors or victims, they call them victims. I mean, it could be either or. You appear in the basement. You start in the basement and you have pretty much everything stacked up against you. You're bleeding out, something that I don't actually think I knew going into this game. You are constantly losing health, even if you don't get hit by anybody. And so if you don't use medicine, you're going to actually die on your own. You got 3 killers. They're all doing their own thing. You got Grandpa. Again, you start in a basement. You start in the basement with Leatherface, who's actually trapped there with you until the first door opens. So you are really playing at a big disadvantage, right? You need to play, I think, extremely, extremely safe. You need to be a very good communicator with other people. Otherwise, I think you're going to be absolutely screwed. I think in a lot of ways, going actually into a positive, the game's genius. I think the atmosphere of this game is kind of unmatched. We talked about these. Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, Predator, Ghostbusters, all these, whether they're 4v1s or 8v1s or all these different things. This game, I think, feels the absolute best. You feel tense when you are playing as the victims. And when you're playing as the killers, you are kind of like free. I mean, they're wacky already, right? But you're free. You're going around. You all have your own kind of assignments. You're all good at some things and bad at other things. But it's a lot more freeing because you definitely have the advantage. The victims can't do anything to you. One of them can knock you over. That's about it. And the rest of them, they're not going to harm you. So you're kind of in control. And again, that's the point. So there's different ways of exiting the map. And there's only one map in the technical test. There'll be 3, I believe, at launch. 4 ways out of it, all requiring something slightly different to do. You got to play your role. Now, again, though, on the negative side of things, I think it's quite difficult. I think it's very, very hard to play as the victims of this game. Now, again, no duh, right? You're in the situation you're in, you'd imagine it would be quite difficult for the victims. The worry I have is that if you are routinely losing, I think this is something kind of in natural, everyday life. If you are constantly losing, and especially as the killers will get better. I think the victims will get better. And there's skill trees that aren't in the tech test, so maybe that'll make it slightly better. But if the killers get even better, then already they're overpowered, but they're overpowered on purpose. But if they work as a cohesive unit, I think you're screwed. I don't even know how you escape this thing. If you got killers that are just on their game, they're talking to each other, they know what they're doing, I don't know how even the best group of victims are going to consistently be good at this game. And at the end of the day, you're looking for average Joes, just random people, on the streets that are playing Texas Chainsaw. Are they going to want to play it over and over again as victims if they are just getting obliterated each time? I sincerely think the answer is no. And so I do worry about 2, 3, 4 weeks or 2, 3, 4 months after the game comes out. Are people only going to want to play as the killers? You'd really have, I think, a Predator hunting ground situation in that case where everybody wants to play as Predator, nobody wants to play as anybody else. The loading times to get into a match are abysmal, and eventually the game kind of just dies. That is the worry. That's really something that every game that's like this has to contest with, that you need to make these things rewarding, difficult, interesting, unique, all those things in order for people to want to play as both sides. I do think it's fun to play as victims because you just have an experience that you really can't have anywhere else. And again, moving into the positives, The visuals of this game, I think, are tremendous. The sound, the lighting, the fog, the noises. When you start in the basement and like the floor above you like bangs, like you know there's people walking up there, and you see like the dust fall from it's incredible, like the attention to detail. And they've talked about, they've done, I think, like behind the scenes videos specifically talking about the detail of like Leatherface's chainsaw with like the noise, and you can have him and rev it up, and he can like slash just random objects in the world, and they'll make noises that sound perfect. I think aesthetically and what they're trying to go for, I don't even think they could do better than what they have. I think it's like a 10 out of 10. I think visually the game looks beautiful. It is tense. It is atmospheric. Again, from anything visual to the sound design, I think the sound is so perfect in this game. Not a lot of bugs either, which is very, very good, right, for a tech test. I mean, you're trying to like see if the servers can handle and stuff, but the game operates well for the most part. I would say maybe the only thing that I ran into is sometimes when you're collecting blood as the killers and then you're feeding Grandpa, sometimes you have to be in just the right spot for the game to register, for you to actually press the button for it to do it. And that's kind of annoying, so hopefully they fix that. But really, in terms of how the game operates, there is no like falling through floors like accidentally, or clipping through a wall or something. It's good. Like there's things in this game where one has to go one at a time, so you can like climb down a ladder and it will not let the killer climb down that ladder while the victim is climbing down. Feels kind of weird in the moment, because it's like, well, I mean, I don't know if you would actually do that in real life, but I think from a game and from balancing, you don't want something to be like that. You would want to give the victims a little head start, a little bit of a chance to get away. And when the game is clicking, I guess if you're a killer and you're playing your role and you're like trying to like tunnel victim and you're killing them off and you're trying to listen out for them, it's incredible. And then when you're the victims and you're trying to hide and you're turning off lights and you're hiding in corners and you're hoping that the killers don't really look there, and they actually sometimes don't, right? They'll just walk right by you. And it's like, that is so tense, but it feels so good. Or when you're a victim and you're being chased by a killer, I think the map is actually kind of genius. Now, again, the balancing of, I do think it's quite hard to escape as the victims, and I don't know if there's any really good way of fixing that, because I also think just how the map is organized, it's really well done. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of places where victims can crawl or slither through something, and some of the killers can do the same. Some of them can't. Some have to find other ways around. It's a pretty complex map, like one of the most complex map, I think, for, again, like you think Dead by Daylight, you think Friday the 13th, they are not that complex, just because I think the limitations of either the killers or the survivors, they can't do much, so you don't have to make the map all that crazy. These victims are able to jump out of windows. These victims are able to do quite a bit of stuff. And then some killers can do the same. Some of them can't. So you have to like work the map around. All right, well, you got to give the victims a chance, and some killers aren't going to be able to follow them here, but they'll follow them a different way. So it's incredible. I mean, and I think there is a loop. There is definitely a loop and a hook to this game that is quite good. There's, again, only one map, and there's only going to be 3 at launch. I don't know if that's going to be an issue. The maps are huge. They're gigantic, and I also don't think people have like gotten, I mean, including myself, I am not like judging other people. I am not good so far at this game. So I don't know if we need like 8 maps, right? I think we need to get good at what we have like immediately, and I'm sure there'll be DLC down the line. There's a lot of learning to do. I really think this game is going to make or break itself on if it's going to be this difficult for victims, and if you leave it that way, and maybe that is the way you're going to leave it, I'm really interested to just see the natural learning curve and natural like advancement of players, because I do think people will get good. Like naturally, you stick with the game long enough, you're going to get quite good at it. But like this game's going to be on Game Pass. There's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are going to like test the game. I think a lot of Game Pass people do it, which is totally fine. They'll play a game for a couple hours, test if they like it or don't, and then peace out if they don't. And for Texas, if you play as the victim and you just routinely lose in those first, say, 4 hours of playing, I mean, just like your natural brain, you don't like that. People don't like that. They're not going to do it. So that's not everybody, but that's like your average Joe. That's like the person that's like kept Dead by Daylight around for 7 years. Now, I don't know if Texas Chainsaw wants to be around for 7 years. It may be more of like a die-hard game, but I do honestly envision this game a couple months in being one of those games where you either started day one with everybody else and you're still there, or you're not going to do it. Because I don't think a new person is going to be able to jump in, especially as a victim, say 3, 4, 5 months into this game's launch when everybody knows what they're doing. I don't think they're going to survive well, and I don't think they're going to want to continue. Yet again, as people communicate better with others, I do think people, including myself being a really big proponent of this, are not playing victims right. I think you're supposed to be way more stealthy and really just try to never be seen. Hide in the shadows. Again, great communication. You're all working towards like a common goal. I think that's what they want victims to do. I do not think that's what victims are doing. But again, that is a divide there. Either like players are going to play how they want. You can preach to them on Twitter how they're supposed to do it all day long. If that's not how they feel when playing the game, they're not going to do it. So, or maybe they will eventually, right? So we'll have to see how this game turns out. But I do think it's a blast. And ultimately, it's going to be on Game Pass. And we're going to talk more about this game, right? I'll go over some tips and tricks for both sides of this game very, very soon. So let me know what you guys thought of the technical test. If you were able to play it, if you were able to watch it, what'd you think of it? Let me know. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.